Aloha, I'm Senator Russell Ruderman, representing the districts of Puna and Ka'u on the Big Island. We're here for a Ruderman Roundtable, where we talk about good government and local politics. And my guest today is Jessica Wooley, she has been a state representative. She's been the chair of the Office of Environmental Quality Control, and now works with the Hawaii Farmers Union United. Welcome, Jessica. Thank you for being here.
Mahalo for having me.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us about your career and what brought you to this point in it, please.
Sure. So I started, my first job actually was at the Legal Aid Society of Hawaii, where I did a lot of kind of landlord-tenant law and a little bit of property law. And then I moved into enforcement with the Deputy Attorney General's office. So I worked on a lot of clean water, wastewater, drinking water issues. And then after that, my next job was running for office. So that was in 2008. I was elected, and then I served until 2014 in the House.
So you served 3 terms as a state representative.
And then the last 2 years, as you know, I was the Ag Chair in the House. And so that was very interesting. And then I was appointed as the Director for Office of Environmental Quality Control until, I guess, October of last year. And now I am consulting.
So of these 3 aspects of your career that I've seen, the state rep, Office of Environmental Quality Control, and consulting, which do you like the best?
Well, I'm very happy now.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, each time I have been in, government or nonprofit work, it's really a lot about service, which I really do enjoy. Now, my service is in the private sector, but I'm able to pick and choose what I want to work on, and so I'm really enjoying it at the moment.
Wonderful. Tell us a little bit about the Hawaii Farmers Union United. What kind of organization is that?
It's a great organization, and I just recently was brought in as the policy chair, so I'm really working with them to develop their policy as well as some of their legislative goals. And they are a chapter-based organization, so they really try and focus on regional issues, and it's very much of a kind of grassroots organization as well, so it's very much driven by the members. And it has kind of a 3-point vision. So part of it is education, part of it's cooperation, and part of it's legislation, influencing legislation. And I'd say the biggest part is education. So they really want to help farmers learn whatever they need to learn so that they can do better when they're running their business.
Interesting.
It's a great organization, and so I encourage everybody to check it out, hfuu.hi.org.
I like the organization. I've been a member for a few years myself. I haven't been intimately involved, not being a farmer, but I'm a supporter of farmers. I'm very excited by watching them grow rather fast. And I'm also excited about the fact that they seem to be advocates for smaller farms, for family farms.
Family farms, yeah. The focus is on family farms. And actually, I wanted to share with you, they have a 5-point plan that they have just been working on for the last few years. And one of them is focused on workforce development. So there's been an effort to create these farm mentor programs, which I think are really going to be successful. And then another aspect is creating affordable farming land trusts. And right now in Maui, there's some really exciting things that are happening with that. And then another one is truth in labeling, kind of product, place of origin labeling in particular. And the other one is food hubs, creating more food hubs, so centers where farmers and consumers, anybody can really aggregate and take advantage of efficiencies of scale. And then the last one would be the nutrient cycling centers that they're trying to get funding for. So it would allow for us to aggregate a lot of our waste products that now go to the dump or are burned and turn it into very valuable compost for farmers to use. So they're really kind of on the ground trying to find those solutions that are going to help farmers succeed, family farms in particular. And they appreciate your help.
Okay, I hope to be more help in the future. I've never been a farmer, but I have been in the food business my entire career. So food still relates to farming, and I feel very connected to it. And farmers are kind of my heroes in a lot of ways.
Yeah, mine too.
So you touched on one thing that's a personal interest of mine, the truth in labeling, and here we're talking particularly about the geographic origin labeling here. Right? So tell me a little bit about that. I mean, why is that an issue? Why is that an issue for Hawaii?
Oh, I think it's a huge issue, and actually, I was just talking to another senator about this issue, and he gave a great example of the market for hemp. Right now that we have some opportunity for hemp to be grown, we could start to market it, and think about the difference between marketing something that is, say hemp shampoo from Hawaii versus hemp shampoo from Iowa, right? I mean, it's just, I think there's such value in where we're from, and we need to utilize that to give success to our local farmers in particular. So anytime that we can add that kind of information at the marketplace is going to increase the value of our products. So I think place of origin kind of labeling is so important for our future. And I think Europe actually has a lot of really good examples. Like they have regional products, regional names that as a result become very valuable. And we can do the same thing here.
So this has been one of my personal battles because I represent one of the coffee producing areas on the Big Island, and I've tried to make some progress in truth in labeling regarding coffee. Have met tremendous resistance in my efforts to do that. So I try to focus on the next crops. Like you mentioned hemp. It seems to me that chocolate is going to be an up-and-coming crop in Hawaii. Perhaps tea, locally grown tea, a few other what we might consider specialty crops. Why is there resistance to geographic truth in labeling in Hawaii, and what ought we to do about that?
I think there's a little resistance in some industries because they already have a blending market. So, for example, I think in tea, there are teas that look like they're local, and they may have some local aspects to them, but the way the rules are written right now, it's not particularly clear how much of it is local and how much is required to be local. So part of it is you have existing industries that have created kind of their own vision of what it is to be local. And so creating something that is specific for all industries, I think, is a little bit difficult.
Yes.
And so part of the solution may be allowing industries themselves to create some of those standards, but with an overlay from, say, the legislature to make it clear. Like there are some local Hawaii labels that I think are helpful now, but it just is not instituted across the board. And so I think that adds to confusion in the market. Hopefully over time, if we can get in very good structures for those labels, it will improve. And again, from my perspective, it's all about helping the producers, the people who are trying to sell their product, to really increase the value of their product. And I think we could do that much better than we're doing it today. But it's not simple, especially for some of those crops that are already, or some of those products that are already established. And coffee was, very interesting. There was a revision, and so I do think the coffee labeling requirements have gotten better, so that it's clear, that it's a blend, and 10% is from Hawaii, or from a particular location. But, some folks still feel that it should be even more stringent, so that you can't use the word Hawaii if it's not 100%. So, it's a little difficult to address that kind of issue. It's one reason I think bringing in the industries and having that conversation can really help.
So it's especially difficult with coffee because there's already an established blending market that's going to fight further restrictions. But maybe it's not too late to protect our geographic brand when we go into some of these newer crops that are emerging. It's my hope that we'll be able to do that.
And even for local consumers, right? It's not necessarily just for exporting,
right.
But for local consumers, they would like to buy local. And so if they have a clear label and they trust it, that will increase the value and the likelihood that they're going to buy that product. So say, for example, we get dairy to increase its production in Hawaii, we could have our dairy have, clear labeling.
That would be great.
Place of origin.
Yeah. What do you see as the biggest challenges for regarding sustainable agriculture in Hawaii?
That's a big question. So I guess it's the title of our topic today. I think one of the biggest challenges is the structure of our government, which in many ways was set up for a plantation mentality. And so it's almost like we're waiting for some big corporation to come in and save us and give jobs. I think fortunately at the community level, we're seeing a lot of small farms that are just, through sheer will, making a go at farming. And so there are a lot of small farms right now that I think are really demonstrating how successful they can be growing food in Hawaii, even at a small scale. I think the challenge is connecting the people with the land in particular. Water rights is always going to be a challenge as well, but I think from what I've heard from a lot of farmers, the biggest challenge is land and the cost of land. And I think that's kind of the second element for making agriculture difficult in Hawaii. If you are a for-profit company, for example, your goal is to maximize your profits. So if you own land and it's agricultural land, the vision would be, okay, let's figure out what we can grow. But given the way that our laws are written, it's actually not that difficult to get your agricultural land changed over to residential or urban. There are different designations that will increase the value of your land instantly.
So that looks much more profitable to the owner than finding a way for farming to work.
Right, and so even if you're not going to go into the Land Use Commission to try and get that designation change, I think because your land has that potential, it's actually already increased the value of a lot of the prices people face when they're looking for land. So private land's really hard for farmers, I think, to be able to, small farmers in particular. So I do think the state could step in with a lot of their agricultural land, and I know that there are attempts to do that. However, I think the Agricultural Development Corporation has the majority of the power, and I think they tend to go for the corporate, larger farming entities. So it's not simple, but part of it is the way our government structure is set up. It makes it a little bit difficult for people to succeed, and we're not investing in the infrastructure for those small farmers.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to take a short break. This is Senator Russell Ruderman here at the Ruderman Roundtable with Jessica Wooley of the Hawaii Farmers Union United. We'll be right back.
Aloha, my name is Justina Spiritu, and I'm the co-host of Hawaii Farmers Series. This is my co-host, Matthew Johnson, and you can catch us every Thursday at 4 p.m. at thinktechhawaii.com. What do we talk about, Matt?
So on Hawaii Farmers Series, we're going to be bringing on the farmers and also supporter of farmers, including restaurants, caterers, as well as government supporters and nonprofits to hear their background stories and understanding our local ag community just a little bit better.
Yeah, essentially there's a lot more that goes into farming and the local food community beyond just producing the food. And we want to feature and get the background story on all these folks and see how we all work together as a community. So join us every Thursday. Aloha.
We cannot.
Aloha, I'm Senator Russell Ruderman at the Ruderman Roundtable here with Jessica Wooley, who's the policy advisor for the Hawaii Farmers Union United. Did I get that title right? Policy
Chair.
Policy Chair for the Hawaii Farmers Union United. We're talking about agriculture in Hawaii and the politics relating to agriculture in Hawaii. Thank you for being here again, Jessica. Appreciate it.
For having me.
Yeah. So tell me, why should people care about sustainable agriculture? What are the benefits of promoting sustainable agriculture for our state as a state and for consumers and for farmers?
Well, there's so many benefits. I think that obviously having healthy food is one primary benefit. I think also the concept of not importing so much of our food, about 90% at this point is imported, and we'd actually save a lot of money and we'd contribute less to global warming and the use of fossil fuels if we grew our food here. And we know it's possible because it's been done not too long ago. You know, I think the Native Hawaiian model really is something we should hold up and maybe try and get back to, because they really had it down. They had plenty of food here and fed, you know, about the same amount of people in these islands. So I think it's also a lot about, from my perspective, environmental issues, you know, really preserving maybe open space as well as, you know, our valuable watersheds. And I think that with the right kind of ag, you can do that. And I will point out that when I was at OEQC, they published their annual report, and in it, it included a section on food security. And I mean, that's another aspect of it, is just in case there is something that interrupts our, you know, shipping, then we are able to feed ourselves. Another issue that that report raised was just potential disaster incidents where we're not necessarily prepared if something happens. And I think the other issue that we talked about was just education, helping everybody to understand where food comes from, what's healthy food, and really connecting people with what they're eating, what they're putting in their bodies, because that's something that is going to benefit all of us, and it will reduce, you know, healthcare costs. It will reduce so many other problems that we face today. And one of the things I've been really excited about with the Farmers Union is their focus on soil health in particular, because if we are able to build our soil health, we will reduce erosion, we will increase our nutrient density, we can even help with carbon, you know, sequestering, and it's if you feed the soil takes care of the plants, and it makes it so much easier to grow food without chemicals. For example.
Well, it's music to my ears to hear you say all this stuff. That's great. So I find it remarkable to realize that the Native Hawaiians were feeding a roughly equivalent population. Because when we look at our food system now, it's so easy to think, oh, we can't possibly feed all these people. But it was done on a very sustainable level, not that long ago, as you say.
And I do think that the taro in particular is one great opportunity we still have. We still have a lot of lo'i land that was used traditionally, and now it's just sitting there fallow. And so if we can figure out more ways to put people back on the land, I know that there are a lot of people out there who would like to do it, even if it's just volunteering, you know, once a week, they'll come do it just to know that they're helping to restore that land. And there's so many additional benefits that we could get, including flood control, including stream, you know, better stream management, better watersheds, you know, so many different, you know, cultural values, and keeps on going.
Okay. What do you think about we talk about sustainable agriculture. The organic food movement is related but not exactly the same, organic farming. Can you tell me about how organic farming relates to sustainable agriculture, and where do they separate? Where do they differ?
So I think one word that the Hawaii Farmers Union uses often is regenerative agriculture, which I like. Although it sounds a little fancy, but the concept is that we can grow food sustainably without chemicals, without fertilizers. It's not necessarily organic. Organic is actually in many ways a specialty that has a very high value. And it means that the farmers who grow organic are held to very high standards as well. And I think that in Hawaii, we actually have tremendous opportunity to promote organic, and people will pay a much higher premium for organic. And in addition, they want to buy organic. More and more people are looking for organic. And so when you look at national numbers now, it's kind of staggering. And I think it's one reason the U.S. Department of Agriculture is starting to invest more in trying to promote organic products. And so it's a real opportunity, I think, in Hawaii to grow organic. I don't necessarily think it's going to be all of our agriculture at any point. I do think that the regenerative agriculture is another way that we can move, because even if it's not technically organic, it's close to organic.
Yes.
And at least, I think more and more people are really conscious of the fact that we don't want to be putting chemicals in our bodies, and people are going to, as a result, spend time and money trying to make sure that they don't do that.
Having been in the food industry for, I'm embarrassed to say it, but probably 40 years, organic has been the fastest growing trend in the food industry nationwide for these whole 40 years that I've been involved, and continues to be, which Hawaii as a state has sort of ignored that trend up until very recently.
Yeah.
This past year, there was a bill passed that gave some tax credits to small farmers for organic food production. As far as what I see, that's actually pretty much our first step in deciding we're going to try to support this thing that is the biggest trend in the food industry. And I agree with you that things like regenerative agriculture, sustainable agriculture, and natural farming, and organic, they all have the same attractions and the same sort of advantages, even when they're not technically organic. And I love your focus on soil health, because that really is the essence of an organic farmer. Is you're enriching your soil, you're making things better with each crop instead of depleting it.
Yeah, and that's in sharp contrast to what we see happening with a lot of our land. As much as we all seem to idolize the sugar industry or the pineapple industry, the reality is it left a legacy of chemicals in our soil and erosion of our soil. And so when you go to a lot of places and you look at where they used to grow those types of crops, the soil is really hard. It's still eroding. Every time there's a rain, the dust will go down into the stream, and it can't barely grow anything. And so, we have to turn that around. So it's not necessarily easy, and that's why we have, groups like Hawaii Farmers Union United, and people who are spending so much time trying to focus on health of soil.
And I think that focus on the soil health that the Farmers Union has is a very advanced way of looking at agriculture. It's a very deep way of thinking about it. When we talk to people about it, people who are not farmers in particular, they kind of glaze over and sometimes don't get it. They don't get why would that be important, and yet it's crucial, as you just described. The difference between leaving a field dead or leaving it more alive than ever. How can we educate people on the importance of this kind of concern?
Well, keep spreading the word. It's a little bit difficult in Hawaii, I think, because, again, our government structure is not really set up for providing that information. And we don't even have the definition of food in our statutes. So we don't have a food policy anything.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So we, actually when I was ag chair, we tried to get a bill through. It went through the House, through the Senate, both years, died in conference committee, and it was focusing on food policy because we don't have anything on the books right now. And there's nobody assigned to promoting food. We don't even have a definition. So it's kind of in our Constitution. Everybody thinks of agriculture as food, but it's just agriculture. And as a result, I think our laws and our educational system itself don't distinguish between food and anything else.
Other kinds of agriculture.
So we're not promoting food security officially because we don't have a definition. And just to share with you, one of the issues, if we did define it, would be, does it include seed? Because we do have the Food and Energy Security Tax, right, which provides a tiny bit of money to Department of Agriculture to promote food security. But what's the definition of food?
So you're talking about seed, that we have a big seed industry in Hawaii that's all exported and not grown out as food here in Hawaii. How can Hawaii play a larger role in the farm-to-table movement that is so popular worldwide?
Well, I think you're seeing it a little bit right now. You're seeing the growth of a new industry where the farmers are connecting directly with restaurants and food establishments. And so I think, certainly if we had somebody at the government level that helped people make those connections, that might help. But you see it actually coming about kind of organically already. And it's actually very exciting because when you travel or you read the newspaper, any thing in Hawaii, you often see those stories, right? It'll picture a small farmer and a restaurant, and people love it. You know, it's one reason, I mean, we're able to market to tourists because they think that vision is fabulous. Unfortunately, that's a very small part of our economy, and so we need to grow that part of our economy. And I think that that takes commitment from private sector, public sector, nonprofit sector. You know, I think we're giving a lot of lip service to it, but I don't see it actually happening at the government level. So we need more government involvement, more support, more funding, you know. I mean, even Department of Agriculture struggles. They don't have a food security advisor or anybody working on those issues, but they have made budgetary requests to help them do what they currently are required to do, and they don't even get those requests. So it makes it hard.
It's frustrating, huh? So how can, if people are interested in learning more about the Farmers Union, and why would someone want to join the Farmers Union, and if they are, how do they go about doing so?
Well, there's many reasons to join. I mean, there are many member discounts, and there are many opportunities to collaborate and help farmers. So usually they have a chapter meeting every month in the region where they may exist. So in Oahu, we've actually had one Oahu chapter for many years. That's actually just now changing. So there will probably be 4 chapters.
Oh, 4.
And the first meeting is in Waimanalo. And so that will be happening right now. So it's actually a really exciting time in Oahu. In Maui, it's actually very well established. I'd say they're the strongest in Maui. And Big Island, you know, they have some really great chapters that are very active.
Here we just expanded to 4 chapters in the Big Island, which is appropriate because of the size of our island. But Maui has been really the hotbed of activity for this organization for the last few years.
Yeah, it has. And so you can join by just going to hfuuhi.org.
hfuuhi.org.
And it's actually really inexpensive too. It's $50 a year, or you can buy an Ohana membership for 4. That's $100 a year. And I think the other real benefit to joining is that you're showing your support for that type of farming. And one of the things that they're doing right now is they're implementing a system that will, maybe not immediately, but hopefully within the year, allow for more communication. So exactly like the farm to table concept, you know, somebody looking for this, or somebody needs, you know, this. And even at the industry level, you know, allowing there to be more communication and connection to bring people together so that they can collaborate, cooperate, take advantage of any efficiencies of scale, and that kind of thing.
Well, thank you, Jessica. I'm here with Jessica Wooley of the Hawaii Farmers Union United. This is Senator Ruderman signing off on our Ruderman Roundtable. Please join us again in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much. And thank you to Think Tech Hawaii. Mahalo. Oh yeah, we'll take it.